Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Kottabos Space Program, where today we are having a look at the RetroFuture Modernized mod, which was last worked on by forum user KD. It is now being updated and taken over generally by, of course, none other than Linux Guru Gamer. And what this glorious little piece of work looks to add into the game is all the parts necessary to build some pretty cool RetroFuture space planes. And they are some gorgeous parts. So let's jump into the spaceplane hangar and have a look at what we do get. Now I should mention right off the bat that when KD was last working on this, it was never a fully finished mod. It was still a work in progress, and so Linux Guru Gamer's updated version, now that he's brought it up to 1.7, is still technically very much a work in progress. So there are some oddities, but all in all, it's still a pretty cool mod with some solid parts. So let's turn on our mod filter and have a look at some of the command pods here. The first one being the command module Mark I, which is beautiful. My second favorite of the command pods here. My first favorite being the next one we'll look at. But yeah, a pretty awesome looking thing. Kind of looks like maybe an Osprey cockpit, something like that. Pretty cool. Now, as for its stats, it'll hold 2 crew members, a minimum of 1 to operate, with a reaction wheel, SAS crew report, and electric charge. And much like with last episode, we got a lot of parts to get through today, so I'm not going to go through a lot of the specifics, numbers-wise. Now, the next is my favorite of the cockpits, the Mark II, and I love it because it's just such an interesting and unique way of actually having the glass in the cockpit with you actually facing, you know, downward rather than having all the glass upward. It's pretty cool and has a really awesome internal view to match with it, which I should of course mention, all of these have internal views and they're beautiful. Now let's actually forgot to talk about the stats on that one. Again, a minimum of 2 crew members to operate, but this time it can be unmanned and also does have a reaction wheel, SAS, and electric charge. Now the next cockpit we have here is the high dome cockpit. This one requiring 1 Kerbal to operate and only holding 1 Kerbal for its missions, having a reaction wheel, SAS, crew report, and electric charge. Now the next one we have here is the Mark X31 Advanced Cockpit, which is just really cool looking. I like the whole look of this thing. And this one again, 1 crew member, minimum of 1 to operate, reaction wheel, SAS, crew report, and electric charge, and also has a lovely little extendable ladder right there. Very neat. Alright, we'll pop that baby off. Next, we have the Retro Cockpit Mark I, which is a nice little inline one here. Very nice indeed. Once more, minimum of 1 crew member to operate, reaction wheel, SAS, crew report, and electric charge. And then we have the Retro Cockpit Mark II, which holds 2 crew members, minimum of 1 to operate, and then reaction wheel, SAS, crew report, and electric charge. We also do have an Anywhere Cockpit Mark I and II, which are radially attached and are pretty darn good looking if we just kind of click them both on the sides here. And they hold 1 crew member, minimum of 1 to operate. They both have reaction wheel, SAS, crew report, and of course electric charge. And finally we have 2 unmanned command pod cameras, where we have the remote camera probe core, which can be radially attached to things and is pretty darn good looking there. And then we have the remote camera radial probe core right over here, another radially attached one, and both of which being unmanned command pods with a reaction wheel and electric charge. And again, pretty cool. I very much like them. Let's pop all those off and go to the fuel tanks category, where we have the first of the oddities with this, in that none of these actually seem to hold fuel. I have looked all over trying to figure out why, even installed other mods like Interstellar Fuel Switch and other things along those lines. And yeah, so that seems to be a bug at the moment. Hopefully that gets fixed soon enough, but they are still cool parts, at the very least for structural at the moment, where we have things like this, a 2-meter hooded adapter, which is pretty awesome looking there. We then have the 2 by 0.625 adapter. There we go. The attachment point's a little bit off on that one, but Still a cool part there. We then have the medium rectangular tank adapter, which fits this nice rectangular body shape, and then goes down to circular. Didn't mean to click the whole thing. There we go, and can't get that off. Second oddity. Actually, I hadn't noticed that before. Okay, well, we'll just place this one then on the end there, and another medium rectangular tank, just sort of continuing on with the rectangular nature. We then have a pulse jet, which doesn't seem like it should be in the fuel tank category. Perhaps it should be in engines, and again, it's just another bug at the moment, but hey, pulse jet, there you go. Then we have the rectangular 1-125 adapter, always handy to have there for going between the different shapes. We then have another version that's just a bit more elongated, lovely. We then, oops, didn't mean to click away, there we go. We then have another rectangular adapter there, but this time for 2 meters. There we are, a nice little notch upward, and then to the larger size category there. And then another version that is a straight on rather than crooked. We then have this one, which is even longer, a nice 4-meter tank there for your usage. And then finally a tapered one, which if we spin around there, excellent, a lovely tapered fuel tank. Good to have. Now, next in engines, oh boy, we got a lot of engines, and all of these do work. I haven't actually tested every single one of them, but I have tested most of them. They're pretty gorgeous. And we have first the Eddy liquid fuel and oxidizer engine, which, if we pop right there, is a beautiful looking little thing with a maximum of 30 kilonewtons of thrust. We then have a slightly larger version of it with the 1.25 size, and this one with 55 kilonewtons of thrust. We then have the 2.5 meter size one there, which has 225 kilonewtons of thrust. And then we have an even bigger version. Oh boy, that's big old Eddy right there, with 399 kilonewtons of thrust. Now all of them using liquid fuel and oxidizer. Now the next one is the Kodashi VTOL mixed mode engine, which can either use liquid fuel and oxidizer or liquid fuel and air intake, and can produce up to 150 kilonewtons of thrust, the engine being down there. Very good looking, all in all, a very cool little engine. In fact, that's what is powering the ship we'll be taking a look at later on. We then have the Russian Bear, which uses liquid fuel and air intake, and is a prop job, and it is beautiful. I really love all these engines. They are all just so very cool looking. And that one will produce 80 kilonewtons of thrust. We then have the Aerospike producing 180 kilonewtons of thrust using liquid fuel and oxidizer, and it's, again, awesome. We then have yet another prop, the aft mount UHB engine, producing 176 kilonewtons of thrust, and look at all the whirly props. Very cool. Next one is the Contra Prop, producing 65 kilonewtons of thrust, and it's actually an inline engine where you could, attach another back here if you wanted, and make some really wacky designs with that, and that I approve of. We then have the forward mount UHB, producing 175 kilonewtons of thrust there. Again, nice and whirly. We then have the J2 V12, producing 90 kilonewtons of thrust, and look at that beefy engine. Oh, it's gigantic and gorgeous. We then have the Kumo jet engine producing 80 kilonewtons of thrust, and is a good radially mounted engine there, as you can see. Very nice indeed. We then have the Alinea Aerospike producing 180 kilonewtons of thrust. Again, a very nice thing, and I just noticed how much my ship currently looks like a bomb. Huh. Okay, cool. We then have the Pulse Detonation Thrust Augmented Cell, producing 15 kilonewtons of thrust. It is radially attached and just has the most wonderful of names. We then have the Banshee Turbojet, which produces 185 max kilonewtons of thrust. A very cool looking thing there. We then have the PWR 210 Turbojet producing 256 kilonewtons of thrust, and that, I think, maybe the most sci-fi of looking engines, and that I approve of. It is cool. We then have the Radial Aerospike producing 45 kilonewtons of thrust max. Very nice. And then the Sanker ramjet producing 80 kilonewtons of thrust, radially attached right there. And then we have the small jet engine producing 60 kilonewtons of thrust, and you know, it's just a nice, small, little, easy jet engine. Alright, we then have the Trianka, which produces 70 kilonewtons of thrust, another glorious prop engine there, very cool. And then, oh my god, we still have more to go, the V12 Propeller Engine, which, there we are, produces 76 kilonewtons of max thrust. I like the blade arrangement, it's odd. And then we have the V12 Engine Classic, which, I mean, kind of similar to the other, of course. This one producing 65 kilonewtons of thrust, though, rather than 76. We then have the Kento dual-mode engine, which can produce up to 180 kilonewtons of thrust on either liquid fuel and oxidizer or liquid fuel and air intake. And then finally we have the VTOL Shoto and Tanto. Both are dual-mode engines. This one, the Shanto here, or yes, Shoto, producing up to 150 kilonewtons of thrust, radially attached, very good looking. And then the Tanto doing up to 90 kilonewtons of thrust, basically just being the little brother to the other one there. Very, very fun engines. And then we have in command and control a lovely SAS and RCS there, nice and small for your usage. We also have an air brake for you to slow yourself down with, a rectangular SAS unit to fit with the rectangular fuselage design, a rectangular SAS for the smaller rectangular design, and then a spoiler for, you know, having a spoiler. Excellent. Alright, let's pop all those off. And structural, oh, we're still going. Lots of parts here, folks. We have a 2-meter cargo bay fitting the smaller rectangular body. Very cool looking on the interior there. And does open on the top and bottom. I do like the animations for the top in particular. Very cool. We then have an aerodynamic adapter, which if we... actually, it was flipped around that way. Perfect. There we go. It goes from the... sort of square fuselage to the larger circular. And then we have a side open cargo bay. There we are. Lovely ramps on the sides. We then have a top open cargo bay. There we are, open at the top. We then have a drop cargo bay. Lots of different cargo bays here, folks. There we are, a lovely dropping. We then have a drop cargo bay short. There we are, just pop that open. We then have a PTETA cargo bay fuel section, which has some engines inside of it, which are pretty cool. There we are. It does produce up to 55 kilonewtons of thrust. And, yeah, that's awesome. There are the events, the keep clear, beware of blast on the side there. Very fun. And then we have a cargo bay slash utility section. No doors to open, it's just hollow. And then we have a couple of tails, a raised tail section right here with a lovely little spot for an engine up top, and also a tail door that comes down. We then have a short cargo bay utility section here, again, just another hollow section, and then a rectangular tail section with 2 places for engines. And finally, on this one, we got the structural boom, which doesn't seem to want to attach right now. Alright, another little glitch there. But yeah, it's a structural boom. Okay, now in coupling, we got nothing. Payload, we got nothing. Aerodynamic, oh boy, here we go, we got more. We have an aerodynamic cone for you to pop on the front of things and have aerodynamics. Another aerodynamic cone here, a little bit more pointy on the front. We then have a conical air intake, very handy to have. Then after that, a rectangular air intake, which can be radially attached as such. We then have a rectangular nose intake, which I think is my favorite of the nose intakes. It's just kind of cool looking. I enjoy it. And then we have a control surface right there for, you know, control. We then have a slim air intake radially attached. Very nice. We then have a small round nose intake. There we go. Pretty classic looking. And then a wing mount adapter, which I really do quite like. It has an air intake in the front, an attachment point on the back, and a nice flat surface on the side for attaching wings. And then finally we have another wing mount B, which is a little bit more pointy, but you know, still serves its purpose. Very nice, and attachment points on the front right there. Then in ground, we got nothing. Thermal, nothing. Electrical, nothing. Communication, nothing. Science, nothing. But in utility, we have the final few parts here. The first being, if you do have BD Armory installed, a 4-gun 50 caliber nose. Yeah, there you go. You can shoot some people up there. We then also have a field science lab, which is a functioning science lab that'll hold 1 Kerbal. We then have an in-line docking port there, which we can deploy. There we are. It has, of course, built-in lights, always handy. We then have some landing skids here, which are quite cool. There we go. If you want to make some form of VTOL or helicopter. We then have a crew compartment, which can hold 4 crew members. Sadly, no interior for this or the science lab. We then have a mini camera boom, which has some electrical charge on it, but yes, a nice little camera boom. And finally, a utility port, which is a docking node, and does have a light, can be radially attached, as you can see here, and can be deployed. And excellent, there we are, all of the glorious parts. Took a while to get through, but we got them. Now let's actually take a look real quick at the cockpit ship that I made here, which has all the different cockpits with their interior, barring one, which I used to make our ship. So let's load it up with Kerbals and head out to the runway to take a look at the very amazing interiors that we have for these things. They are pretty darn cool. And holy crap, why are we in the air? Huh. Well, this is new. I tested this thing out earlier and we were on the ground. Well, we don't seem to be falling, so you know what? I'm rolling with it. So, of course, we have the interior here for the Mark 1 command pod. Very good looking. If you do have roster prop monitor installed, they will function in these different slots, so you will actually have the cool glass cockpit look. We have the second seat here. We then move on to this next cockpit. A very cool interior. If you do have BD Armory, you got your nice little reticule there for firing and aiming. We then have the next cockpit here. Again, very good looking. You do have to love the quality of all these different cockpits. There we are, the nice 2-person one here. Alright, we got the back seat. And then we have the next one here. Very, very nice. And then this one kind of using, you know, same old stuff, but hey, at least it is an interior. And then we got one of the radially attached ones right here. And finally, the other radially attached one right here. And those are all of the different interiors. So let us revert back to the spaceplane hangar and grab my RetroFuture ship that I tried to make earlier. Haven't test flown yet, so I don't know if it actually works, but hey, it is a little VTOL thing with some skids on the ground. We got a lovely cargo bay in back for you to use, and all in all, a just fun little thing. Hopefully it actually flies well and has the last of the cockpits here, my personal favorite, the Mark II. So let's go launch this one, and hopefully we're not going to be in the air this time. That was weird with the other one. Please let it be on the ground. It is! Thank crap. Okay, so let's take a look at this last cockpit here, and this is why I love this one. I love that window. It's so cool. And again, you have the glass cockpit stuff available to you if you have roster prop monitor installed. It's just such a cool cockpit. I could see this one being extraordinarily cool for like rovers, but really any ship, honestly. You got the great look at the sky, the sides, down below. It's all good. And of course, our 2 angles here, very good. And let's actually try out these engines, see if I actually made something that works. Let's throttle it down at first since it's VTOL. I'm gonna see if I can actually make it fly. Just up. Up is all I care about. Oh my god, it works. But yes, this is the RetroFuture Modernized mod. It has some amazing parts, some really, really cool engines, amazing cockpits. Hopefully the fuel tanks, etc. get sorted out eventually, but hopefully that will come in time. But yeah, that is gonna be it for this particular mod video, my friends. If you'd like to check it out for yourself, which I would certainly recommend you go and do, you can have a look at the link in the description as per usual. But that is gonna be it for today. I hope you all have enjoyed and that you do come back for the next episode, when hopefully we'll be looking at yet another wonderful mod. But until that time, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good one!